Beginning your search. Using the search strategy worksheet to plan a search using subject headings. This is video 1 of Search Module Intermediate. The following slides will advance on their own, but feel free to pause or rewind as many times as you need. In the Ask module, video 2, we learned about why key concepts are important to our search and how to identify them. In Search Module Basic, video 1, we learned why planning our search is important. And we also learned how to begin planning our search using keywords based on our key concepts. As with the Basic module, we are at step 2 of the evidence-based nursing practice process, searching the evidence. This is video 1, which will show you how to plan your search using subject headings by completing the search strategy worksheet. In the other videos on this module, you'll learn how to use the databases that you will search using subject headings. We've already learned how to complete a search strategy worksheet by entering the question, the database or resource name, our key concepts, and our keywords. And now we're going to learn how to enter subject headings into the worksheet. For this video, we will work once again from the same practice scenario we used in the Ask module. Feel free to pause the video now and take your time reading this scenario. You can also print the scenario and keep it next to you. The link to the document is below this video on the module. We're going to use search questions contained within the clinical practice scenario we just saw. Just a quick reminder that the instructions explaining how to fill out a search strategy worksheet are on the worksheet itself. So if you ever forget what you've learned in this module or in the basic module, you can always either watch the videos again or follow the instructions on the sheet. In this video, we're now going to complete the bottom portion of the worksheet. You may remember that we used this question in the video 1 for the basic search module. We're going to use it again now. You may remember that last time, this is what we had filled out in the worksheet, the top portion. So we put the question, we put the resource we were going to search, we had our concepts, and we had our keywords. So now we're going to work with subject headings, and Scopus doesn't use subject headings, so we're going to change our database, and we're going to search Medline Ovid. And then we're going to go down to the bottom here, and we see that there's these extra spaces, and this is where we're going to be putting our subject headings. Now, in order to fill in the subject headings, you're going to have to go to the database and look them up. You're not expected to remember them. It's a very long list. You'll find a link to the databases used for the module on the module itself. Now, in order to fill in the subject headings, you're going to have to go to the database and look them up. You're not expected to remember them. It's a very long list. You'll find a link to the databases used for the module on the module itself. Here we are on the intermediate search module, and to find the links to the databases that were covered in this module, you just scroll down and you see that they're listed here. You'll also find the ones that we learned about in the search module basic. Now, before we go any further, it's going to be important for us to understand what subject headings are. A subject heading is an assigned word or phrase used in some databases to uniformly describe a concept. These words or phrases form what we call a controlled vocabulary. This vocabulary, or list of words, goes from general to specific on what we call the tree. Now, in different databases, subject headings are called by different names. In Medline, which is one of the databases we're going to look at today, they are called MESH, which stands for Medical Subject Headings. In the other database we're going to look at today, called CINAHL, they are called CINAHL headings. Articles are assigned or tagged with the subject headings that best match what the article is about. Here's an example. The subject heading for cancer in Medline is the MESH term neoplasms. So an article about cancer would be tagged with the term neoplasms, even if the authors use the word cancer in the title and the abstract. Now you may be wondering why use subject headings when we can use keywords. Well, one reason is that using these standardized words or phrases of subject headings instead of keywords means you do not need to worry about all the synonyms and spelling variations. If you remember in the basic video, we talked about how with keywords you might find articles that are not relevant just because the authors had used that word in the title or the abstract. So using subject headings, you have a higher chance that what you're finding is actually relevant to what you're talking about, because the article will only be assigned that subject heading if that's what it's really about. Okay, so now let's go to Medline Ovid and see how this works. So here we are in Ovid Medline. Now, the way this works is that you would type in your first keyword and then click search. But before you do that, you just want to make sure that this box here is ticked. This is what tells the database you're asking it to let you know what are the subject headings that are available for this concept. So let's click search and see what happens. Now looking at this list, we see that there's a subject heading that looks pretty good. There's also another subject heading about recurrence, but it's focused on cancer. And that's not really what we're searching today. We're interested in urinary tract infections. So this is the one that looks likely. Now, to see whether it is in fact the one that you're interested in, you can click on this little eye and it will open up a little window that explains what this subject heading means. And so you can just be sure by looking there that it's in fact what you want it to be. In order to go back to that list, you would click on previous page. So now we're going to go to our search strategy worksheet and we're going to enter in that term. Oops, that's not the one we want. We want this one. So we're going to type in here recurrence. And then we're going to search for the next concept. It may be tempting to click on search right away, but remember, we're not actually going to run the search right away. We are just filling out our worksheet. We need to have at least one subject heading for each of our concepts before we can build our search. Also keep in mind that since we are just working on a plan for our search, it may be that our plan may change as we explore the different subject headings and learn new information about searching and about our topic. And if you are planning a search, before you jump right in and start searching, you may want to complete the rest of this module to watch the videos that teach you how to search the specific databases that are in the module. So now that we have our subject heading for Concept 1, we're going to go back to the database and look for our subject heading for Concept 2. So here we are, and we're going to type in UTI. Now you're going to notice that some other things pop up here. These are just reminding you that you had done these searches before. You can ignore them. So here we go. We have urinary tract infection. And again, if you want to just make sure that it means what you think it means, you can click on the I and it gives you an explanation. Now, before I go back and type this into the worksheet, I want to show you one other thing, which is that if you select this and click continue, you're going to notice that you come to this page. Now, these are called subheadings, not to be confused with subject headings. I really wish that they had found a different word to use to describe these. But basically, this is another list of words, and they are kind of aspects that can be applied to any specific subject heading. So now, if you ever notice that one of these subheadings matches one of your concepts, you can click on it and include it. Now, here, therapy happens to be a subheading. Now, if you remember, we're going to go back to the worksheet now. We did have treatment as a concept. So that means that we can, in fact, use the subheading therapy. And so how you would write this in is here, you would type in urinary tract infections. And then you can make a slash and you can type in therapy. What that means is that your concept 4 is actually here. You've got 2 for the price of 1. That's pretty cool. Great, so now we only have one more concept to go, and we're going to go back to the database and we're going to search for probiotics now. So let's see what we get. And we have probiotics as a subject heading. And again, you can check the scope note to see what it means. Another tip is that if you click on the actual term, then you can actually see a little bit of the tree. Remember, we mentioned the tree, how subject headings go from general to specific. So you can see here that probiotics actually is a more specific type of dietary supplements. Now, if you wanted to search for all dietary supplements, including probiotics, you could actually change here and click Explode. Explode means that you're going to include in your search all of the terms that are narrower than the one that you have selected. Now, if you want to look at the full tree, that's going to give you a bigger sense of what the tree actually looks like. And if you scroll down, you'll find out where dietary supplements falls. And you can also see that by exploding on dietary supplements, you're not just getting probiotics, but you're getting prebiotics, synbiotics, and yeast comma dried. So you may want to click on the term and explore and see what it is that you're going to find. Now, I am only interested in probiotics, so I'm going to click on probiotics before I search. But remember, we're not actually searching right now, so I will resist the urge to do that. I'm going to go back to the worksheet, and I'm going to type in probiotics here. And now we have one subject heading or a subheading for each of our 4 concepts. Before we go, let's just try one more example. And we're going to use the other question that we had started, which was about cranberry juice and preventing UTIs. So here's the worksheet we had completed for the second question. Now we're going to change our database and we're going to search CINAHL instead of Ovid Medline. And our first concept is cranberry juice. So we're going to go to CINAHL now and see what subject heading matches that concept. Here we are back at our guide, and you'll see that here we have a link to CINAHL. I like to open it in a new tab, and that way I don't actually lose this page. So here we are at CINAHL. Now CINAHL, you'll notice, looks a little bit different than Medline, and there is a video that's going to show you how to search it, but I will say now, please ignore all the extra boxes. Just pretend you only have one box. And again, make sure that Suggest Subject Terms is clicked here. So let's type in juice. Now, important tip, all of these things are, unlike Medline, not the searches you had previously done. These are searches that other people have done, and they may or may not know how to search the database well. So don't use them as a guide. Just keep doing what you're doing based on what I'm teaching you. Okay, so here's cranberry juice, and we're going to click search. And sort of similarly to Medline, we have a list here. These are, instead of mesh headings, we have CINAHL headings, and some of the similar things are happening here, right? You can select cranberry juice. If you do, you're going to see subheadings. And remember, you're only going to include subheadings if one of them matches another concept. You also have explode here, but in CINAHL, it will only be an option if there is something narrower. And in this case, we do not have a more specific type of cranberry juice. So we're going to resist the urge to click search, and we're going to go back to our worksheet, and we're going to fill in the worksheet with the subject heading we've just discovered. Okay, so now we're going to go and search for a subject heading that matches our second concept. And here we can go back to our search history. We don't really have a search history, but that's the best way to go back here. And we're going to type in UTI and see what happens. Now, in this case, we've only found a subject heading that isn't really what we're looking for. So when that happens, instead of choosing it, well, first we can check and see. Now, it is what it says, seems to be. This is related to the use of catheters, which is not our question. So when that happens, we go back to the search history and we try again. And this time, I'm going to type in the full thing. Now, you can, if you see that it's exactly what you plan to type, you can choose from this list, but don't pick the other things. So let's see if we put in the full thing. And it looks like what happens now is that we actually found a few more results, and one of them is actually relevant. So urinary tract infections seems to be the one that best matches what we're looking for today. And now we're going to go back and type that in. And so we have our second concept. Aha! But we didn't actually check to see if there's any subheadings that may match our other concepts. So let's go back actually. And remember, the subheadings only appeared once we selected it. And here they are. Let's look at them. It looks like prevention and control is in fact a subheading. You can also click here to see what they mean by the subheadings. So it looks like prevention and control can be useful for us. And so before we go on to our next concept, we're going to go back to our worksheet. And we're going to do that backslash, and we're going to type in prevention and control to remind us that that's what we had done. And once again, we have 2 concepts for the price of 1. That's pretty cool. Remember, right now we're just planning our search, and we're going to learn as we go. So if you don't succeed right away, try again, try another word. That's why you thought of maybe more than one way to say something. The databases are smart, but they're not always able to map to the concept right away. And if you type in a different word, you may find that you have better luck. And as I said before, this is just our plan, and our plan may change as we learn new information about searching and about our topic. Okay, so let's look for our last concept, which is women. And again, we're going to go back to our search history here, and we're going to type in women and see what happens. And so here we are, we have women. Now, if we wanted to see the full tree, we could click on that word and see if there are different types of women. And you'll see that, in fact, there are many different types of women. And in this case, we don't, in fact, want to explode because we don't want to include all these other types of women. And so we would just select women. And we are going to resist the urge to search. We're going to go back to our worksheet and we're going to type in women. And there we go. We have at least one subject heading or a subheading to match all of our 4 concepts. And so now we're ready to search, but first, don't forget to watch the video that explains how to search the databases that you'll find on these modules. Now, don't forget the ors and the ands are going to help you build your search. And you're going to watch the other videos on this module to learn more about how you can use and or to combine your keywords and your subject headings and create a successful search. Congratulations! You have now learned how to complete the search strategy worksheet for databases you can search using subject headings. Don't forget, from now on, complete your worksheet before meeting with the librarian. And if you need more help, register for a library clinic, book an appointment with your liaison librarian, and you can do both from the nursing subject guide or specific course guides or the modules.